Yesterday, we got to see the Into the Light reveal stream from Bungie themselves. This is one of 3 live streams that they're going to do over the next 3 weeks, and this is going to lead up to the launch of Into the Light, which will be on April the 9th. Now, just so you know, this is a horde mode, more specifically, a wave defense horde mode that I think many of us have been asking about for a very long time. Big shout out to the gents at Bungie for yesterday's live stream. Today, we're going to be breaking down everything that we saw, including some of the things that were slightly mentioned from the developers here that we can draw conclusions on. Now, to start things off, the name of this horde mode is called Onslaught. It is a 3-player round-based wave defense horde mode that will take place in the last city, and it is a completely free activity. Now, yesterday's stream took place in Midtown, which the layout is pretty much identical to what you would see in that PvP map, except in this case, there's a pyramid ship that's actually terraforming structures. Now, this is not going to be our only map. They mentioned that there's going to be other areas as well. Thematically, I'm not really sure if it changes much from what we've seen here from the last city, but I would assume that it's probably going to be other PvP maps, and I know that's kind of a big hang up for folks, but for me, at the end of the day, I care more about the activity itself rather than the setting. And I think the fact that you're going back and forth to the pyramid ships throughout this encounter and you're rotating around the map, hopefully this is going to keep things mixed up. And the other side of things is that I'm used to playing on these maps as a PvP player. I never really thought to sit down and wonder what would it be like to engage enemies in PvE here. So it's kind of a different take. Now, from a lore perspective, they describe that the witness forces are at our doorstep, and his goal is to keep us on this side of the traveler. And that's essentially what's happening here. These forces are meant to tie us up and keep us from progressing forward. Now, from Bungie themselves, this is about breaking out and discovering new power and getting some new toys to take on the witness in the final shape. Now, Lord Shaxx is going to be assisting us and will be opening up his arsenal, which is what we're going to be hearing about more next week. Shaxx will be the vendor for Onslaught. We actually see throughout the stream some of his reputation being increased, which is called hype. Now, this is really cool because Shaxx is really not that involved, even though lore-wise, he's such a major component in Destiny's universe. But for the most part, he pretty much just sits back and runs Crucible expansion after expansion. So this is really the first time outside of that one little scene back during the Red War campaign where Shaxx is playing a role in taking on the baddies out there. Now, the overall objective of this mode, though, is to defend your ADU. This is your advanced defense unit. And you have to make sure this stays up through the entire duration, as if it goes down, the game is over. Now, there's going to be 2 versions of this. There's a more casual playlist version that will be quick and simple and only featuring 1 ADU to defend and goes only up to 10 rounds. Then there's going to be a challenge version, or at least that's what they were calling it on stream. This version goes up to 50 rounds, with every 10 waves moving the ADU to a different part of the map. Now, we ourselves will have to go and defend, with each wave increasing in difficulty. Now, although defending the ADU is the primary gameplay feature of Onslaught, it's not the only one, as every 6th wave of a tier, that being wave 6, wave 16, 26, 36, 46, you'll be entering a pyramid ship with an objective to complete, which seems to revolve around killing the bad guys, which spawns a spark of light, which can then be dunked into a rift, pretty much identical to the mechanic for our PvP game mode, Rift. Then every 10 waves, you'll board the pyramid ship again, and there'll be a boss you need to kill in order to advance. Now, the challenge version of Onslaught actually has 2 difficulties. We have the normal version, and we have a legend version. Now, there will be matchmaking for the 10-round playlist version. The devs mentioned they believe the normal challenge version also has matchmaking, but not 100% sure, but they did mention that it will have Fireteam Finder. Now, the legend version features restricted zones, meaning you'll need to be revived by your teammates if you die. You also have Extinguish, so if you all die, or if the ADU is destroyed, that's it, guys. You return to orbit. And if you're in the normal difficulty version of this, if you reach wave 30 and plus, these modifiers will also be activated. And we saw this when they were running it, how things escalated, especially from like waves 30 and up. Dude, things got hectic. The ad density, the champions, the fact that they just literally spawn up all around you. We're not even talking waves like 45 and plus, which I am assuming are going to be crazy. And also Noah here was actually running a pretty solid build with Gerfalcons, and even they got overwhelmed. I love that they mentioned, though, in order to really succeed in this game mode, this really pushes the envelope on build crafting, which, by the way, guys, we're going to be doing an entire video of builds we know are going to rock in this game mode. Let me just say this. Stasis turrets are going to be nuts. Talk about complete fleet lockdown, amongst a number of other builds that we will be eventually going over. Now, you and your fire team aren't alone in defending the ADU, as Shaxx has lent some of his resources to help you defend. You can purchase sweeper bots that can be used as decoys, as well as turrets and tripwires to help you defend. And what's even better, guys, is that you can further upgrade these things. So like there's multiple upgrades for the turret, which seems to not only increase the turret's lethality, but also seems to physically change the turret itself. Now, the currency used in Onslaught is called scrap, which can be earned by defeating enemies. Tripwires cost 1,000 scrap, decoys and turrets cost 2,000 scrap, and these defenses can be upgraded all the way up to tier 3, with again each tier increasing the potency of those items. Now, I'm not really sure what the cost is going to be, but Noah did mention as he was playing that it's around 12,000 scrap to reach that third tier of upgrades. And it seems like turrets are the big upgrade that you're going to want to get. But another thing he mentioned is deciding as a team what is best to purchase, as you need to keep in mind, not only are you protecting the ADU and yourself, but you got to protect these things as well. You upgrade a turret and spend all your scrap on it, but you buy it in a bad spot and you're not helping to defend that area, enemies will aggro to that turret and destroy it. It's not like stasis turrets. They will literally aggro to it, wipe it out, and there goes all your hard work buying and upgrading that turret. So as mentioned, for some, it may be worth it to just have 1 level 3 turret. And for others, maybe you want to have 3 level 1 turrets. And again, I'm sure as we start to play this game mode, we're going to see like, okay, where are the best spots to really make these purchases? Is this a more protected area? What's the level of strategy here? Which is something in most game modes we really don't incorporate. It's like, all right, how lethal is your build? How well can you clear? And then that's it. We're not really playing tower defense. And in some ways, we kind of are in this game mode. Now, scrap is earned across the team as you're getting kills, and each player actually gets their own amount from the total. So it actually splits 2 to 3 ways depending on how many people are playing. But you can't share scrap with someone. But communicating can be very important here, because if someone has enough scrap to upgrade a turret, but you only have enough scrap to purchase a turret, you would purchase it. They can then spend the scrap to upgrade it. Now, every couple waves, you'll have about 30 seconds to make purchases or upgrades to your defenses before the next set of ads. But just so you know, if anything gets destroyed, it has to be repurchased at level 1. Now, I'm not sure how strong the decoy is. It was mentioned that the hitbox on the decoy was originally very small, so all the ads would sit there and just try to attack the decoy over and over, and the hitbox was literally the sweeper broom and nothing else, which is hilarious. The trip mines, I'm not really sure if those are going to be that good. I literally saw an ad walk straight through a trip mine, and since the ad was moving so fast, the trip mine triggered after the ad was already out of harm's way. I do think though, especially considering the map like Midtown, your builds are going to be a lot different than what our previous builds have been when it comes to like clearing an area, because this is a tower defense mode. I can honestly see things like 3 strand hunters running around, placing clones all over the place, in combination with purchasing decoys and other things. Now, previous defenses you've bought, you won't be able to move. So when the ADU moves, you'll have to repurchase those defenses. However, those things that you previously bought will still be on the battlefield. So either A, they're going to take away some aggro, or B, when you rotate back around, hopefully they're still sitting there and you could just proceed to upgrade them even more. Now, the ADU will take damage as enemies attack it. And even if they're just standing within this circle around the ADU, which will turn red if the enemy is inside of it, it will still take damage. Now, to heal it, you need to collect these repair batteries, which both orange bar and high health targets will drop. Now, you probably noticed that depositing these are pretty much the same mechanic from Forges. You simply just throw it at the ADU and they'll deposit. Now, if your ADU is at full health and you give it a repair battery, this will give you 3 times the amount of scrap on kills. So there's actually incentive to keep these ADUs very healthy. Now, in terms of the enemies we're going to be going against, it seems we have a fair amount of variety. For instance, in the gameplay demonstration, the first 10 waves were against Fallen, but then waves 20 and plus had Hive. There's also a mix of champions and onslaughts, so it almost seems like we're gonna have to be prepared for anything. And at one point, there was a wave of exploding shanks, and then later there was a wave of only cursed thralls and ogres. And then in the late 20 waves, a giant tormentor appeared. Now, in terms of the different factions of enemies, Taken were brought up, and it was said that they were active elsewhere, being marshaled for other purposes they, being Bungie, won't get into. I don't know, guys. Whisper mission returning? Kinda sus. That Whisper was right behind them, just laying on the wall. I'm just saying, guys. Now, some waves will also have certain objectives called augments throughout that need your attention. Whether it's going out and killing certain enemy types, they actually showed sky bombers early on that you need to go kill. And there was also huge fallen captains called demolitionists that would spawn spawned at another wave. Now, they explain this gives an opportunity to explore the map, but also some strategy may be involved, especially on later waves, as you won't all want to leave the ADU, as someone will be needed there to defend it. Now, we mentioned every 10 waves, there's a boss room, and in these boss rooms, there are further augments to help defeat the boss. During the gameplay, we saw a well to stand in as you defeat targets, and this would allow you to deal more damage to the boss. We also saw zones that needed to be captured, which would spawn turrets to help you, and a wizard that can be killed, which generates a spark to then dunk into a rift, which would deal massive damage to the boss. And it's at the end of these boss waves that a chest will spawn with rewards. Now, in the challenge version of Onslaught, you'll get a chest every 10 waves up to 50, where the final one will give you double rewards. Then on legend difficulty, the chest will give you even more rewards. And they also mentioned that there may be extra surprises along the way. There are bonus objectives, which are different from augments, that will randomly appear. A few that happened during the stream was a speed wave, where you needed to clear the wave of enemies within a certain time limit. There was also another of pyramid splinters that spawn, which needed to be followed and destroyed, which can lead you away from the ADU. Now, when these bonus objectives were completed, it would grant a heavy ammo crate to refill your heavy, and later in the stream, we also noticed that they seem to give 2 tokens called Trophy of Bravery, which we're assuming is going to be the currency used at Shaxx, who again is serving as the vendor for Into the Light. Now, not a lot was shared about weapons and gear, but Noah was using something called the Brave Arsenal, and that more information will be shared in the coming weeks. We did get a small preview of some things though. During the stream, we saw Hung Jury, which actually dropped a few times, which is odd considering that this is normally a Nightfall weapon, and it can still currently be legacy focused at Zavala, but of course, I'm sure this one is going to have entirely new roles. We also saw Midnight Coup. This was being used throughout the stream, and yes guys, we got a sneak peek at its role, which came with Firefly and Kinetic Tremors, as well as a new origin trait called Indomitability. Now again, we're going to learn more next week, but this does have us speculating what those weapons are that we're going to be seeing. We know that Recluse and Hammerhead ornaments are in the Eververse store, and they will be rotating when Into the Light drops on us. Question is what else could we possibly see? Bungie likes to leave little hints for us. For instance, we saw a Whisper just behind them while they were chilling on the couch talking. Not only that, right behind Andy was Luna's Howl. We've personally been speculating that Whisper the Worm would be returning to us as a craftable weapon with the return of the Whisper mission. Again, I know this is a lot of speculation here, but dude, I'm not the only one coping. Les is speculating that by maxing out our reputation, we will be able to earn Red Death. Now, I know you may be scratching your head wondering, what does Red Death have anything to do with this? Listen, I know it's kind of far-fetched, but Bungie did state that Shaxx is opening up his arsenal, and most notably, we will be seeing weapons that are frowned upon in the Crucible. And the description for Red Death back in D1 read, quote, Vanguard policy urges Guardians to destroy this weapon on sight. It is a Guardian killer. Now again, I know, sounds like a hell of a reach. If you think it's clickbait, I'm with you, man. Let's go blame Les. Again, though, next week, we'll be getting more details on what our rewards are going to be for this activity. But it does seem that Bungie is going for a celebration of some of the most iconic weapons in Destiny's history. And to be honest, those weapons are pretty iconic. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the episodic content that would have been here in front of us, those being certain weapons, didn't make their way into this update. Overall, guys, this mode looks like a lot of fun. Look, I've been asking for a horde mode for ages. And similar to the Coil, I feel like this is going to be a game mode that's going to tie you up for a bit of time. I mean, 50 waves is no joke, if you can even make it to wave 50. And it was brought up from some of the devs that they would be very surprised if anyone can solo this. Challenge accepted. We'll be going for that day 1 solo, fellas. Now, next week, they'll be sharing the new social space for Into the Light. They're also going to be looking at fan favorite weapons and other rewards. So guys, if you want to come join us, we will be live streaming alongside Bungie, taking a look at all these things and analyzing everything as it's revealed to us. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you think. And again, for my folks that are bummed out about these being PvP maps, again, I think my focus is more on the game mode itself. I want the mode to be fun. I kind of like the idea of actually utilizing PvP maps for PvE for once, and that is something new for me. We'll see how it shakes out, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.